Hello, I'm David Hartley, and we're talking today with James Bo Phillips. He's the Republican candidate for Sheriff of Russell County. Hello, sir, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here.
It's going to be a race, huh?
Yes, sir. Should be a close race.
Well, tell me about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Dayton, Virginia. My father was a Vietnam veteran, having served in the United States Marine Corps. My mother was a homemaker and a caregiver. I have two brothers, Paul, who was a doctor, John, who is a Desert Storm veteran, having served in the United States Army. He also works as a 911 dispatcher. I have two sisters, Lori, who is a registered nurse, and my sister Lisa, who suffered a severe back injury and she's now disabled. Been married for over 15 years to my wife, Crystal. Together we raised two children, Noah and Lexi, and we're members of Morning Star Full Gospel Church in Castlewood.
Well, that's a lifelong resident then.
Yes.
Of where you're from. Okay. You're running for sheriff. You've been a part of that department for a long time.
Yes, sir.
What makes you qualified to be the sheriff?
Well, I have been in law enforcement for over 17 and a half years. I started my career at the Russell County Sheriff's Office as a dispatcher. Then I was later to move up to deputy, and then I was promoted to sergeant, and then I was promoted to detective. And I held that position for about 6 years. I left the Russell County Sheriff's Office to take over as a chief of police in St. Paul 3.5 years ago. So I know what it takes to run every position within the Sheriff's Office. I know what it takes. As far as certifications go and training, I'm an instructor with the Department of Criminal Justice. I'm an instructor with the Department of Homeland Security. I have an appointed position as an investigator with the Chief Medical Examiner of Virginia. I'm also a graduate of the Virginia Department of Forensic Science Academy. So I have extensive experience and training for this position.
I would really like to ask you a whole lot about that forensic category, but we don't have time for that. You've been in the system there.
Yes.
So you probably see some problems that need to be addressed.
Yes, sir, I do.
Tell us about those.
First and foremost, in my opinion, I see the community disconnect from local law enforcement. I think there needs to be more community policing. You got to build that trust back between law enforcement and the citizens itself.
Now, what do you mean by community policing?
Community policing, getting out, getting to know your neighbors. You know, they need to know you, you need to know them. When you have assigned deputies in certain areas, you know, they get to know that deputy. They form a really good bond. Law enforcement can't do it on their own. It takes the community's help, because you know more and the citizens know more in the communities that they live in versus the law enforcement that's patrolling there. So we need to form that relationship. Also, there needs to be more deputies on patrol, and there needs to be 24-hour coverage. There's currently not 24-hour coverage by the Sheriff's Office at this time. So that definitely needs to be changed.
Is that because of funding, budgeting, what?
In my opinion, it's because of management.
So you think that it could be done?
Absolutely, it can be done, and it will be done. I see several other issues out there.
Okay.
For one, the 911 communication center. They need better equipment. The radio equipment is not near as good as what it should be. And saying that, police, fire, and all the rescue personnel, you know, that's a bad problem to have, and it's a dangerous safety issue. It really is, because if they're in certain areas of the county, it's not picking up. So that needs to be addressed now instead of later.
Just like all of Southwest Virginia, it's a mountainous area, and it's hard to get the signal everywhere.
Yes, it is, and that needs to be addressed. And also another issue that I see within the 911 Communication Center is the current sheriff and the Board of Supervisors. They agreed to pass what is called an emergency dispatch protocol. Well, they passed this protocol, and they went against the recommendations of the local board-certified medical directors. And the medical directors did not want this in place. And to sum it up in short, they cannot, when you call 911, when any citizen calls 911 now, the dispatchers are not trained. So legally, they cannot give pre-hospital care instructions. So if you have somebody that needs CPR instruction, if you have somebody that is choking and needs help, legally the dispatchers at this time, the way it stands today, they cannot give pre-hospital care instructions. That's a huge problem. So they need better training at this time to have something in place to protect them.
That's the 911 is in place to save lives.
Yes, it is.
And that seems to be something that would impede the progress of saving someone's life. If you're on a phone call and you don't know what to do, you don't know CPR, and the person on 911 can't tell you, you have a real problem.
That is a serious problem, and as we all know, you can't put a price on anybody's life. You can't. So that is something that really needs to be fixed.
What about, I know you have some problems with jail inmates, some of the issues there.
Yeah, there's been some problems with the inmates. You know, I'm all about rehabilitation and helping people whenever you can. And jail is not always the answer, you know, for somebody's problems. But with that being said, I also don't think it's right for inmates to be coming over to do community service as far as litter pickup, and that's supposed to be monitored by the sheriff's office. I don't think these inmates need to have access to secured areas. They actually have the passcode to get in a secured area. That should never take place. That's a huge safety concern as well, because who else are they giving this information to? You know, when something is, you have a passcode to get in a certain area, you know, if they give this out, that's a bad problem. Again, it's all about the safety. So
We were talking, I mentioned budgets a minute ago.
Yes.
Are there budgeting problems?
there is budgeting problems there, and for me, I would cut out the wasteful spending. You know, they have so many issues of wasteful spending there. One thing that I would change is I would stop wasting money importing military vehicles. Now, they can get military vehicles for free through the government, but you have to pay so much money to have them brought in here. And I think that is a wasteful spending, when if you have money to import the military vehicles in here, you would have money to provide canine service, whether it be a tracking dog for lost adults, missing children, things of that nature, or you can also take the money and buy a canine drug dog. You know, a drug problem is one of the biggest problems that Russell County and Southwest Virginia face. And I'm proactive in that fight against the drug problem. So I think that you need every available resource, you know, available to you.
When you say you're proactive, what does that mean?
I want to fight against, and not only fight against it, but I want to help people develop intervention and more prevention programs. You know, we need those in place, because every family in Russell County, every family is affected by some sort of substance abuse problem. Whether they got a friend, a family member, everybody is affected by it. So we need better programs in place just for that.
If you're elected, what kind of changes would you make to the sheriff's office?
Well, first and foremost, I would have an open door policy to where every citizen can come in and talk to me. You know, voice their concerns, maybe just to even get to know me, and I want to get to know them. But currently they don't have that option just to come in anytime they want to. I would make that available. Another thing that I would do, as I spoke of, I would put more deputies on patrol. And how I do that is currently they have 7 and 8 investigators. The county does not need that. The current sheriff wants to say that the crime rate is up, and I agree with that. But I also counter that by saying, if you will cut your investigative division in half and put those guys back in patrol, currently there's only 2 to 3 deputies that cover Russell County of a nighttime from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's not fair to any citizen out there. And there's no coverage whatsoever from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. There's no deputies out in the county at all. And sometimes from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. there's no coverage. So that is definitely something I would fix. Also, I would have a structured department to where every employee is treated fairly and impartially. All of them. Everybody treated the same. I'm a firm believer in doing it straight down the line. What's right today will be right tomorrow. What's wrong today is wrong tomorrow. You shouldn't have double standards, and everybody should be treated the same. Also, I would cut out the employees using the county vehicles for personal errands and things of that nature. I think you use the vehicle for its sole purpose, and that is protecting and serving the citizens of Russell County, not for your own personal gain. Again, I would try to improve the radio system that is in place there now for the 911 communications and provide better training. Those things have to be in place now. That can't wait.
Now, how can you do that and also be for cutting the budget?
You can do that because they are not, as far as the training goes, it's there. It's not, you know, it will cost some money to get the emergency medical dispatch in place, but the funds are there to make it happen. I think when you cut out half of the investigator's office, and even though they get paid more for being an investigator, so when you cut them back, you know, to being straight salaried employees and no overtime, you're saving the county a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they make an additional probably around 100 to 120,000 extra a year. We can do a lot with that kind of money.
Now, you mentioned having an open door policy.
Yes, sir.
But you also would like to have town hall meetings.
I would, because you have several elderly people that are not able to come into your office, but they could easily get to the local community center and things of that nature. So I want to give back as much as I can. I want to build a relationship with the citizens second to none. I really do. I want them to know me and I want to know them. I want to bring back the respect and the trust that should come between a law enforcement officer and a citizen.
You talked about being proactive on the drug situation as well. What about with your officers? How do you know if they're on the straight and narrow?
Well, I think that the sheriff's office needs better drug testing. They really do, on a routine basis, and not just for a certain couple here and there. It needs to be for everybody, the sheriff included in that. Everybody should be included. You know, again, it goes back to treating everybody the same, straight down the line, and that goes from top to bottom. And I'm a firm believer in the lead by example approach. From top to bottom, that's the way it should be.
Have we missed anything? Because we're running out of time.
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything.
Well, thank you for being with us today. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank
That's James Bo Phillips, Republican candidate for Sheriff of Russell County.